Maui, I bought my first property. It was for $18,000, one bedroom, one bath on the beach. Amortized all my debt and taxes, and I made $25 a month. I was home free. That's what Kenny McElroy and I do, is we use debt to get rich. And other people follow Dave Ramsey, who said live debt free. Well, you better choose your teachers wisely. This is a true capitalist saying, is that my money in your pocket? Because that's what your first job is as a salesman. I said, okay, the guy's got some money. What does he or she want to buy? And I'll find it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Success on the Rocks. This is episode number 6, and today we have a very, very special guest on. A man who probably doesn't need an introduction, but in case you've been living under a rock, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the greatest business books of all time, went on to sell over 50 million copies worldwide. He's a big proponent on gold, silver, real estate, oil, leveraging debt to buy assets. And, you know, I could go on, but Robert Kiyosaki, thanks so much for being on.
Well, thank you. I'll be happy to take a sip. It's a little too early for me. I love bourbon, though.
So, Robert, I want to jump right into it. When you were writing, you know, the infamous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, correct, that we all know you from, did you know that it was going to be a success and go on to do as well as it did?
That's a tough question because writing is not my strong suit. I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write. And when I wrote Rich Dad, my first book was, if you want to be rich and happy, don't go to school, because I hated school. My poor dad was head of education. That's why I hated school, you know. So I just didn't get along with writing. And so it was tough. And then I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the editors in New York turned it down again and says, when it comes to money, you don't know what you're talking about. So I fired back a couple of rude remarks saying, maybe you don't know what you're doing, you know, and maybe you should put some real finance books out there. But as you know, most people are in the stock market, and they're a bunch of suckers as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so I'm fundamentally like Ken McElroy, a dear friend, and your son's your friend. We're real estate guys, we're entrepreneurs, and we don't follow the traditional rules of financial planning. You know, financial planning is that 60-40 bullshit, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. I mean, you have to be a complete moron not to follow that formula, you know? And it's a dangerous formula, so I don't follow it.
Yeah, and your book, you know, is the intro for a lot of people into entrepreneurship. You know, for me, it was one of the first books I read, business books. And the biggest takeaway is kind of just switching your mindset and starting to think about really not exactly what to think and, you know, all the information, but how to think. And I believe that was a very important message. How did you know, because I know that because those guys in New York, you know, turned you down, you had to go on and self-publish the book.
Correct. What
did you do in order to market it and kind of distribute the book?
Well, long answer to a short question is I did finally go to school. I got appointments to Naval Academy and Merchant Marine Academy. I'm not stupid. I just hate school. And both Naval Academy and Merchant Marine Academy, you learn by doing. So a naval officer drives a ship, a King's Pointer drives a ship. So I can drive ships, and my background was oil. Because as you know, oil is the fuel for civilization. So today I own oil wells. But I was always planning my future by my education, if you know what I mean. And then when I got out of Kings Point in '69, the Vietnam War was still on, you know, so I said, so I joined the Marine Corps. I said, you know, well, why am I going to criticize them if I'm not going to go to a fight? So I joined the Marine Corps, and I flew the helicopter gunship in Vietnam, killed a lot of people, had a lot of my friends killed also. But it was all character building. And today I still say the same thing. I said, what happened to all the men? You look at our armed forces, our generals are a bunch of thumb-sucking woke guys, you know. I'm going, what's happened to us? You know, it's really quite dangerous. But I think a lot of it is education. Of course, I'm a Marine.
Right.
And I see the world from that. Plus I played rugby. Plus I played football. I didn't play pickleball.
Yeah, it's certainly, a different time and a big issue in our society. I know you touched on, thinking a lot of the professors and teachers are Marxist. I read a study a few weeks ago, because it's very prevalent in the Ivy schools more so than anywhere, I think.
Amen.
And, it was Harvard professors, 80% self-identify as liberals. And I don't know if
Marxists.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if that's something that was on purpose or just kind of evolved into that.
Well, let me explain that real quickly.
Yeah.
I went to military school, so I didn't go to those pussy Ivy League schools. So it was either Naval Academy or Merchant Marine Academy. I took Merchant Marine Academy because we're the highest paid graduates in the world. And I wanted to be an oil tanker driver. So I drove oil tankers with Standard Oil. And so it's at the age of 18, I leave Hawaii, I was a surfer rugrat kid flunking out of school. And I go to Kings Point, and they start screaming at you from day one, And then my economics teacher was a West Point graduate who flew B-17s in World War II. So when we studied economics, the first book he had us read was Marx. I've got 1848, The Communist Manifesto. I read that. I went, oh my God, everybody should read that book, The Communist. It's only like 50 pages, but it's had more people killed than any other book in the history of the world. Hundreds of millions of people have died because of communism. When I read that book, I went, oh my God, my family are Marxists. They're not bad people. Just philosophically, economics is like a religion, like, there's Buddhism, Christianity, right, Judaism, and all this stuff. Well, economics is kind of religion also. So Marxism is a type of economic religion. And they believe in labor unions, workers of the world unite. They believe in the abolition of private property. Someday you'll own nothing, then you'll be happy. And Marxists believe in taxation. Everything I don't believe in. So I'm 18 years old. I'm in school in New York. This is 1965. I'm reading the Communist Manifesto and going, holy mackerel, they're already here. And what Marx says is that communism would come to America in two phases. Phase one would be through our education system. So Columbia University, that Commie Pinko school, their teachers' college in 1930 invited Marxists from Hitler's country, Germany, to start teaching teachers all across America Marxism. But we don't know that because it's disguised. So I'm not against Marxism necessarily. If you want, it's a free country. You want to be a communist, go ahead. But you can always tell a person, that's what I loved about the academy I went to, was you judge a person by their actions, not their words, acta non verba. So you look at this guy, Biden. What was his first act? His first act as president in 2020 was to cut the Keystone Pipeline. Now, I sell oil. I had oil wells all across that area. I was selling under Trump, I was selling oil at $30 a barrel. The moment Biden came to town, oil went from $30 a barrel to $130. I knew exactly what that SOB was doing. He's going to bankrupt America by driving the middle class broke. When the price of oil goes up, everything goes up. Food goes up, everything goes up. So Biden and this Kamala Harris, another commie, what they're trying to do is bankrupt America. Watch what they do, not what they say. And the second thing those SOBs did, they took down the wall. And Trump put the wall up. These guys take the wall down. So again, it's acta non verba. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Watch what those two pinko commies did, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And look at this kid, Hunter Biden. Guy's a drug dealer, a pervert, and some whack star, just like his dad. And Donald Trump's two sons and I are really good friends. I wrote 2 books with Donald Trump. They're great kids. Mm-hmm. But you can always tell a parent by their kids. And like with Hunter Biden, he didn't fall too far from that fruit tree. Just watch what they do, not what Kiyosaki is saying. I'm just kind of reporting it, call play by play.
Yeah, no, agreed. Because it's something, especially with my generation, the younger generation, it's something very hard to see. You have seen communism firsthand in Vietnam, of course. Myself, I'm originally from Albania. I was born there. Good. And my parents, I grew up hearing the horror stories of communism.
They don't want it, do they?
No, of course not. And people that have lived through that can kind of see it coming in phases.
Amen, brother. You're actually quite fortunate, because most of these liberal kids don't know they're living in communism right now.
And it's the famous saying of you could vote your way into socialism, but there's only one way out at that point.
Just look at the facts. Hundreds of millions of people have been killed by communists. It's going to start happening here. I mean, sorry, they defund the police. You can steal up to $1,000 a day and not go to jail or something, something stupid like that. That's the abolition of private property. All Marx. And join the labor union. My poor dad was head of the teachers union. Most school teachers are freaking Marxists. They're good people. They think they're doing the right thing. I just don't like their politics.
And with, at the time of this recording, obviously we're days away from one of the biggest elections.
Most important election of our time.
In this nation's history. What are some, as a businessman and investor, what are some of the implications that, this decision really depends on? There's a lot of talk on Kamala's, tax policy and her capital gains tax. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, go to the Rich Dad website. There we posted Trump's tax plan, and we posted Kamala's. Kamala's a pure Marxist. It's that, I don't know if you know this, but America was founded as a tax-free nation. It was called the Boston Tea Party. And we fought taxation. And so Kamala and these commies, Democrats, most of them, they want to tax the rich. And they're so stupid. The rich don't pay taxes, if you know what I'm talking about here. So these stupid commie pinkos who teach colleges, all they're doing is taxing themselves, because they're not that bright of people.
And touch on that a little bit, because obviously you've been very, very financially successful. You're big on not paying taxes and using debt in order to do that. What are kind of some of the strategies and ways you avoid tax, legally?
Well, when I came out of the Marine Corps in '74, the first thing my rich dad said, you have to learn how to sell. So I got a job at Xerox. He says, if you can't sell, you have no income. So sales equals income. The second thing is that you have to take real estate. So Marine coming out, so I got a job with Xerox to learn how to sell, and I started taking real estate courses. And all the lights go on. In real estate, it's called appreciation, depreciation, amortization. That's financial literacy. People say, well, what's financial literacy? It's called no taxes. Appreciation, depreciation, amortization. They're ways to legally not pay taxes. So let's say I make $1 million in Rich Dad. Immediately, I've got to buy $10 million worth of real estate. So I buy $10 million worth of real estate using $9 million of debt. So debt is tax-free money, if you notice.
Right.
Most of these idiots who buy mutual funds is after-tax money. Really stupid people. I mean, they really don't know anything about taxes because they went to school. But anyway, so I don't pay tax. So I've got to buy a bigger piece of property. That's Ken McElroy and his sons. I called Kenny. I said, Kenny, I need another $40 million. He goes, okay, you got it. That means I need to buy a $40 million piece of property, or I'm going to pay tax. So I get richer and richer because I'm buying bigger and bigger properties from Kenny McElroy, making cash flow from it. And then because I have a $40 million property, I can amortize it, appreciate it, depreciate it. It's called financial literacy. But the average professor has no idea what I just said. I might as well be speaking Chinese to him.
Yeah, because it's a problem. I mean, it's not taught in our schools. No. If you were, let's say you were in charge of kind of a education curriculum override, what are some of the first three concepts that you would make mandatory and feel are crucial for people to know when it comes to educational?
The first thing I would do is I would give the kids a choice. Do you want to be a Marxist? Then go to this school. You want to be a capitalist? Go to this school. It's a free country. You want to be a Marxist? Just stay and go to Arizona State University. Go to University of Hawaii. Go to UT, Texas.
Right.
You want to be a Marxist? Just stay in school.
And what was that first initial piece of real estate that you bought? What was the first property you purchased?
Well, it's real estate is so freaking easy. If you can't make money, you should hang up the jock strap. You know what I mean? So my rich dad says, I'm coming out of the Marine Corps. My poor dad wants me to go fly for United Airlines. I said, Dad, I fly a helicopter gunship. You don't want me flying your aircraft, Hi, this is Captain Kiyosaki. Strap in, idiots. Because I love flying the gunship. Man, you could get down there and shoot them real close, I went down 3 times too, but that's how good the training in the Marine Corps is. I loved it. I just loved it. It's high adventure, high adrenaline. You lose a lot of friends, but you also other people pay the price too. It's not for everybody, obviously. But anyway, so I come out and I don't want to fly for the airlines. So rich dad says, Sal, got a job with Xerox, take real estate courses. It's that simple. So I'm taking real estate courses, learning about taxes, depreciation, but I'd already studied Marx at the academy. So I read Communist Manifesto. I'm going, I don't want to be a communist, so I don't pay taxes. You want to be a communist? Pay taxes. You want to be a communist? Join the labor union. I won't do that. It's a free country. You want to vote for Kamala? Vote for her. You want to vote for Trump? Vote for Trump. Or you can vote for whoever you want to vote for. But this is a free country. First thing I'd give a kid a choice to do, be a Marxist or a capitalist. And if they want to be capitalist, it changes their education plan.
And touching on, because we were at the Limitless conference a few months ago.
Right, great conference. Right?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And something that stuck out is you were speaking, we were in the VIP section, one of the after parties, and you told a story about one of the helicopter crashes. And you made this great comparison to business because, right now in this environment, obviously with interest rates, with inflation, with the political climate, everything going on, it's important to keep pushing forward, right? And you told us a story about that. Yeah. And I would love for you to share that with our audience.
Well, being a Marine pilot, I was going to fly the 130, which is the gun. They call it Puff the Magic Dragon. It had cannons, everything on it. But the trouble was, I wasn't going to get to go to Vietnam. So I was 69. I'm talking to my monitor, who's like a career counselor in the Marine Corps. And I said, what's the fastest way to Vietnam? He says, gunships. I said, why? Because they're dying, you stupid son of a bitch, A gunship pilot had a 30-day life expectancy once it got to Vietnam. We went down like crazy because we got up close, personal, and we shot them, and they shot us. So that meant if you're going into the most dangerous situation possible, you've got to practice for that environment. You know what I mean? If you're flying for United Airlines, you don't need to practice that much.
Right.
But you're flying in a gunship situation where you're coming in close and low and popping up and coming in, and you have to be a better pilot. So we had to practice crashing every single day because the odds were we were going to go down. So I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, and every single day we went out there and we were popping our little helicopters up, flying in, firing rockets, machine guns, and all this. And every day we had to crash our aircraft at least 3 times a day. So ironically, in Vietnam, I went down 3 times. But every time it was just like, oh, engine quit, no big deal, because I'd done it so many times. So when the engine quits, why pilots die is they pull back. They go, oh, my engine's dead. I want altitude. The altitude and airspeed are crucial for pilots. So they pull back on their nose. You cannot do that. You have to do exactly the opposite. As soon as your engine quits, you slam that nose forward, you drop your power, and you dive for the ground. Because what you're screaming for is airspeed. I want to get the helicopter up to as much speed as possible. So when the engine quit, you push forward. Engine quits, you push forward. Engine quits, you push forward. The guys that died, engine quit, they pulled back and died. So what I was saying to the entrepreneurs at Limitless, I said, you have to, when the economy gets bad, don't pull back, push forward. Spend more money on promotion and advertising, doing what you're doing right now here. Start a podcast, but become more aggressive. Be more out there, promote your products. If you're selling tampons like Tim Waltz, our vice president candidate, tampon Tim, as Trump calls him. Sell your tampons, you know what I mean? Hey, boys, you want to wear tampons? We'll put them in the boys' room for you. It's Tim Waltz, our vice president, under Kamala, Communist Harris. Jesus Christ, what a country we live in.
So what do you think are some of the ways that, entrepreneurs, you mentioned, marketing, advertising, what are some other ways you think that they should push forward right now? I mean, do you think they should be taking on more debt?
It depends, like sales equals income. When I meet somebody who has no income, it's because they're not selling. It's that tightly correlated. So let's say you have inventory right now. You'd better start advertising. I said, I got inventory, I got to move, Say, we'll give you, like today I'm running to the polo shop because they're giving me $500 off. If today's the 1st of October. November. 1st of November, that's right. I get $500 off. So I said, thank you guys. I'll be, so after I leave here, not that I need to go to the polo shop, but I like $500 off. They have nice stuff, So anyway, you better start promoting. Sales equals income. But what most people do when sales drop, whatever the business is, they don't spend on advertising. They cut back. So cutting back is like pulling back on the nose of a helicopter or any aircraft. You ask any pilot, when your engine quits, you push the nose forward. You must gain airspeed as quickly as you can. Airspeed and altitude keep you alive.
And I know you're big on this concept of failing forward, making mistakes, learning through failure, and, hopefully learning from that and not making it again. But sometimes it does take a couple times to learn from your mistakes. Is there anything you would have done differently looking back at your financial educational career that you might have changed?
Well, it goes back to school. My poor dad was a PhD from Stanford, University of Chicago, and Northwestern. In academics, these professor guys, making mistakes means you're stupid. In the world of business, the person who makes the most mistakes wins. But you have to learn from your mistakes. And if you screw up, I was just talking to this young guy, he's only 21 years old. I said, you screwed up. Admit the truth now. I was court-martialed twice in the Marine Corps. Twice. Best thing that ever happened to me, because I had to tell the truth. There's a movie by Jack Nicholson. This is A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. That's the Marine Corps. When I got caught, and it wasn't that serious, just flying drunk and with women in my aircraft. Boys having fun with the toys. The women were beautiful too, man. I tell you, they were hot. We fled to deserted beaches in Hawaii and drank and have a good time. So I got caught. And they said, what happened? I said, I'm guilty. So I pled guilty, did that whole thing. Honorable discharge. I said, get out of here. We don't want you flying for us anymore. I said, thank you very much. But the truth shall set you free from Bible. It's that simple. But our schools teach you, if you make a mistake, it means you're stupid. And when you lie about your mistake, you become a criminal.
Yeah. Telling the truth is very important. And that story about the Marine Corps, it could have definitely been a lot worse for you if you didn't.
I have an honorable discharge. I sat there and the guy says, the prosecutor was this young Jewish guy named Captain Abrams. He had me dead call to rights. He says, on this date you did, and that, yes, I did all these things. How many women were up there? I said, 3. How many how many kegs of beer, how many bottles of beer did you have? Well, I had a lot of beer, and all this stuff. On top of that, I was machine gunning animals with my M60.
Nice.
We're having a great time.
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
It was Vietnam, man. We're having a fun time. So he goes, I sit down, I go, phew. Anything else? I said, Lieutenant, I said, no, sir. I've told you everything I've done and more. He said, thank you very much. He says, you'll be honorably discharged in 90 days. Congratulations, Lieutenant. 90 days later, I drove out with an honorable discharge. That's the U.S. Marine Corps. Great organization. Be a man, man up to it, tell the truth. If you do the crime, do the time. And I see this guy. I saw Abrams a few years later. He says, I wish I'd gone with you. This is flying out of Hawaii. We're flying to all these deserted islands with women and beer and scuba gear and machine guns. And it was the wildest time. It was Vietnam,
Yeah.
It was fun time. I would do it again.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about the backlash you received when coming back, returning from Vietnam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was different. That was the hippies from, the Woodstock, the Love-In generation. I landed at Norton Air Force Base, north of San Francisco. But it's about 250 of us. We're just coming back from Vietnam. And the captain of the aircraft says, gentlemen, as soon as you get into the aircraft, as soon as you get out of this aircraft, change into civilian clothes. That America has changed. You're now the enemy. And so we had to run into, we're still in Marine, I was a Marine outfit. I ran change into civilian clothes, walked outside, a rotten egg hits me. It's all the hippies, the love-in kids, Mm-hmm. Yes, we're here for peace. And they're throwing eggs, spitting on us. And I said, I think I shot the wrong people. But today, they're our leaders. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders, they're all the hippies. And look at what they're doing to this country. They're called Democrats. All those love-in Woodstock hippies, they're killing us right now.
Going back to this concept of capitalism, is there anything that, maybe one thing or anything that you would change about capitalism to make it more fair or more sustainable?
It is fair. Just obey the law. The laws are written are different for everybody. I have a book, the second book was called The Cash Flow Quadrant, ESBI, employee, self-employed or small business, big business, and an investor. The laws are different for every one of the four quadrants. So I'm in the B and an I. You're in the E and the S. You cannot do what I do. So that's why a lot of these academic types, these professor types say, oh, you're breaking the law. I said, no, I am obeying the law within my quadrant. I am a big business owner. I have 500 employees. How many employees you got, professor? And they said, well, you don't pay taxes. I said, yeah, but I own about $150 million worth of property. I own property, so I don't have to pay taxes. How many houses do you own? Well, I have a condo, I'm going, that's why you pay taxes, because you're small. They don't understand. Our professors are some of the most stupid people I ever ran into in my life. They're good people, but they're not capitalists. Most are socialists, most are communists.
Do you think there's any country or culture out there that does a better job of teaching financial literacy than the United States?
Look, it's ESBI. The cash flow quadrant should be most people's Bible. You operate as a B, big business. The rules are the same throughout the world. Operate as an I, an inside investor, rules are the same throughout the world. Like I fly from here to Uzbekistan and then I go to Canada. I don't have to follow U.S. rules because the rules for capitalists are the same throughout the world. But they don't teach you that in school because most professors are Marxists. They belong to the teachers union, the NEA, National Extortion Association, most powerful union in America. That's how all these communists get into office. Mm-hmm. Like they're after Trump all the time. All the time they're after Trump, because Trump's a capitalist. Trump's a good friend of mine. Sons are great kids. I was hunting upstate New York with Don Jr. and Eric Trump. we go into this restaurant, and those boys go in the back where all the illegals are. You know, the guys who are there washing dishes and all this, and the boys shake all the guys' hands, say, "Hi, thank you, welcome to America." Greatest young men, just the greatest young men. If I don't have any kids, but if I did, it'd be like them, you know. Oh, like Kenny's boys are just great kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Was that a choice you and your wife made? Was not to have kids?
Yeah, she's a great woman.
Yeah,
she and we're just entrepreneurs. We like business.
Did you always have a passion for writing, or you mentioned a lot of your teachers didn't think you were very good, but did you yourself think you had you were very skilled at the penmanship?
No, but I'm a wise ass. Do you know what I mean? I flunked out of high school when I was 15 because I can't write. It's not that I couldn't write. I just criticized the teacher. I said, "Why am I reading this garbage for? Why don't you teach me something important like money?" And then when I got to be 17, my senior year, same thing. The teachers just came down upon me because I'm a wise ass. I said, "Look, I'd rather learn about taxes or debt or something like that." "Well, you're just going to be a greedy old man." I said, "Well, that's fine. I'm happy to be a greedy old man, But they're Marxists. And in school, if you go against a teacher, you're dead meat. But that's why the academy, Kings Point, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, is a great place because my teachers, economic teachers, were West Point graduates. And they bombed a lot of people. They flew. I remember my English, he was my economics teacher. And like I said, West Point graduate. And I went to him and I said, I got this high-paying job with Standard Oil, after I graduated. And I said, "Sir, what's it like to fly a B-17 in World War II? What's it like to get shot down? What's it like to be a POW?" He said, he looked at me, he smiled, and he went, "Go find out." So I resigned from my high-paying job with Standard Oil, making $120K a year. In 1969, that was not bad money.
Mm-hmm.
So I resigned, joined the Marine Corps, $200 a month. Wow. Next thing you know, I'm flying in Vietnam and going, I'm glad I did. Those things are more important than just a paycheck. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I lost a lot of friends. The saddest days of your life is when your friend's aircraft doesn't return. And you stand there just staring out, where are they? And they don't come back. So, and then they come home and then have all these hippies spit on you. All the love-in Woodstock hippies. Oh God. Like when I speak to mostly conservative groups, if you can imagine. Democrats don't invite me in. I stand there and I said, "Yeah, and I swear to God that was Nancy Pelosi out there spitting on me." They all crack up. Or Bill Clinton or Chuck Schumer or Bernie Sanders. Let's make fun of it,
As far as today, I know you've been a pretty big advocate of Bitcoin. Where do you see Bitcoin going, and how do you view that as an investment?
Well, Bitcoin, I think, is freaking genius. First, I'm a student of Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. He's the guy who invented the geodesic domes and all that. So I studied with Fuller for 3 summers. And he's considered one of our greatest geniuses. But I remember him telling several things. He predicted several things. One, he predicted that homosexuality would increase. That didn't make him too popular with most people. So I went in his classroom for the summer. I said, "Why is homosexuality going to increase?" He says, it's God's way of telling us we have too many kids. We need to drop the population. So homosexuality is God's way of keeping the sexual organs firing, but not producing kids. That was one. I said, that kind of makes sense. And the second thing, he was watching the kids' games. He says, there's going to be a new type of electronic money coming out, crypto. And he called it crypto, but he called it electronic money because you're watching kids' games. So when I saw Bitcoin came out, I said, I wonder if that's it. But I watched it, went to 20K, dropped down to 1, came back at 3. I picked it up at 6. So I have 70 Bitcoin at 6. I'm doing good. Mm-hmm. But it's because it's I call it people's money. Gold and silver are God's money. And U.S. dollars, toilet paper. So that's how I look at it. That's why I've always said savers were losers. Your house is not an asset, and the rich don't work for money. So I do a lot with Kenny McElroy, I do a lot of real estate with him. The profits go into Bitcoin and gold and silver. I own gold mines. I own more gold and silver than most people ever will because I own the mines. And I'm a capitalist. I'm not one of these little guys on the YouTube channel, these little stackers, silver stackers and gold stackers. And they might have 100K or something. Jesus, give me a break. But that's the world we live in. You have to be careful who you listen to out there. A lot of these people, they talk about gold and silver, but they haven't got any. Or Bitcoin, just ask them, how many you got? And they go, well, I got half a Satoshi or something, I just crack up and say, okay, John Wayne, I got half a Satoshi. Keep going.
Well, obviously has proven to be very successful for you. Bitcoin, I think, is sitting around 70,000 today.
Yeah.
And a lot of, people don't have a grasp of this, especially the savers that you talk about, don't have a grasp of inflation and, how the money is just paper. If you're not putting that into, income producing assets, like you say, or even assets that appreciate, it's kind of a losing game.
Well, that's why I mentioned Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. John Denver called him one of the greatest geniuses of our times. Like I said, I studied with him for 3 summers. And, he talked about, he wrote a book called The Grunch of Giants. I don't recommend the book. But grunch stands for gross universal cash heist. It's how our wealth is stolen via our money. And when I read that book, I understood it clearly. Because in '64, the U.S., money was pure silver. After '64, not. And then was it 71, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. It became all debt at that time. So that's why the financial planners tell you to buy treasury bills and bonds. I go, I won't touch those things. But you should. You got to find out the way that works best for you. So I don't have any stocks or bonds. I have a lot of stock, but they're my companies that I took public. So one of my goals was I took a company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, gold mine. I took a gold mine public on New York Stock Exchange, and then I'm taking a carbon credits company public on NASDAQ next. So what a true capitalist does, they don't buy stocks, they sell stocks. They list companies on the stock exchanges. And everybody can do it, Why would I go and buy a stupid mutual fund when I can list a company on the New York Stock Exchange? I'd rather do that. To me, it's simple.
Yeah.
Easy decision,
Yeah. And piggybacking into my next question, looking at young entrepreneurs today, someone that wants to achieve the level of success you did, what are some risks you think they should take and maybe some risks that they should be avoiding?
Think for yourself. Be careful who puts ideas in your head. Do you know what I mean? Because the worst thing that most people have are old ideas. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, pay taxes, buy a house, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. I don't touch that stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Mm-hmm. I just don't have to. I'd rather take my own companies public on New York. Okay. That's a little bit more exciting than buying a couple of ETFs. Same as Bitcoin, I don't buy Bitcoin ETFs. I just rather strike when the price dropped, I bought as much as I could. Same as Michael Saylor, just accumulate. So I don't save dollars. I just save dollars enough to hit with Bitcoin or gold or silver.
So essentially, finding the right teachers is very
Amen.
important.
Amen. That's like when I was in Sunday school at 7. The teacher at Sunday school, she was only about 25, I'm like 7 years old. She goes, why were the wise men wise, the 3 wise men? I raised my hand and said, she goes, why? Because they were rich. She goes, how do you know they were rich? I said, they had gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Those were rich guys. Mm-hmm. Jesus had nothing. She goes, oh, no. You know what I mean? I was a wise-ass kid. But just show me the facts, Jack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's important, that old way of thinking that you touched on as well, with an ever-changing world, keeping up with the times, stuff's changing.
Yeah. Nothing's worse than an old idea. Why don't you save money? Well, why would you save money when America is printing? We're now at 35 trillion in debt. And every year now we pay $1 trillion in interest payments of money we don't have. And you still save dollars or yen or pesos or euro. I mean, you're an idiot. If you had $1 trillion and you spent $1 every second, how long would it take you to spend $1 trillion? 31,688 years. And these guys are printing $1 trillion every 90 days. Why would you save the dollar? I mean, you got to be a frickin' stupid mother effing idiot. Just look at the numbers. It's simple math. A trillion seconds is 31,688 years. Do the math. And you go, well, why am I saving these dollars then? Because you're an idiot. Save gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Or use debt to buy real estate.
Yeah, and you use a lot of debt, obviously. How much are you in debt now currently?
About $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Debt is money. The U.S. dollar became debt in 1971. And these guys like Dave Ramsey, I mean, he and I get into it, or he says, live debt free. I say, Dave, that's your formula. It's not my formula. And, for most people, Dave Ramsey's formula is the better formula. Live debt free. Because you have no financial education and you don't want to study. You've got to study. I study constantly. Study constantly. Because everything is changing so fast. So Dave Ramsey's correct. Live debt free if you really don't want to study.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits to debt, obviously, that you touched on. Taxes, inflation, all of that. How has, I believe with the first property you purchased, going into that, you bought it 100% levered, right?
That was because your professors, your teachers have a lot to do with your success. So I took this real estate course, and this guy was a real estate investor, and he says, your job is to buy a property for nothing. And then he taught us how to do it. It was a 3-day course, sat there. It took me a while, but finally I found this property. It was on Maui. Maui's a pretty desirous place to be. Used to be, not anymore, because of the fires that just went through Lahaina. But on Maui, I bought my first property. It was for $18,000, 1 bedroom, 1 bath on the beach in Lahaina. And I paid for it with a credit card. I made $25 a month. So I had cash flow, amortized all my debt and taxes, and I made $25 a month. I was home free. It fried my brain and went, holy mackerel. That's what Kenny McElroy and I do, is we use debt to get rich. And other people follow Dave Ramsey, who say live debt free. Well, you better choose your teachers wisely. That's the most important thing. Dave and I are good friends. I respect him tremendously. But his formula works for most people, not for me.
Yeah, and that's the growth mindset. I think if it's all about your
capitalist mindset.
Yeah, which is hand in hand, kind of. And it's all about your tolerance. Some people, if they have even a little bit of debt, they can't stand it. They can't sleep at night.
Right.
So if you're more comfortable with it and more comfortable taking risk, I think your school of thought is a better.
It's like learning to fly a helicopter. You got to practice crashing every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to do that, don't fly helicopters. It's really quite that simple. So most people should follow Dave Ramsey. This is a true capitalist saying, excuse me, is that my money in your pocket? How do I get it?
Right.
And I'm always trying to figure out how to get somebody, because that's what your first job is as a salesman, is sales equals income. I said, okay, the guy's got some money. What does he or she want to buy? And I'll find it. Excuse me, is that my money in your pocket? I say that in front of these Democrats, they're freaking going nuts. Oh, you're just a greedy son of a bitch. I said, why am I the greedy one? I give people what they want. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to run off to Ralph Lauren right now and they're going to give me $500 off on a new sweater. I don't need a new sweater, but I like the $500 off. I'm happy. Mm-hmm. Oh no, you shouldn't do that. You should live debt free. You should, look like a tramp and a bum. I'm going, oh my, that's your choice. I like the nicer things.
Yeah, I think honestly, if entrepreneurs were in charge of the system rather than these politicians, it would be much more efficient.
Amen.
Look at an example I like to use is look at TSA, which is, government versus Clear, and one which is private, and one is way better at it than the other, right? But another famous saying you have kind of is with how much money you have in debt is it's the bank's problem. It's not your problem.
Yeah, if you can't pay it back, but I pay it. I've never defaulted. I've gotten close. I got in trouble, but it actually makes you smarter. That's why never lie, tell the truth. I went to see my banker, said, man, I'm in serious trouble, and he just worked it out. But when you hide it and you try and lie to the guy, they get angry at you. So that's why what Jack Nicholson said in A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. That's what the Marine Corps taught me. Tell the truth. It's much easier. And if you screw up, do the time,
And I do want to end on this and be respectful of your time. I know you're a busy man. If you could meet any person throughout history, dead or alive, maybe over a lunch, who would it be and why?
It would be Elon Musk. Man, that guy is a freaking genius, man. How the hell does he do what he does? I mean, I sit there looking at his Teslas, takes a rocket ship in space, brings it back down and going, what is this guy smoking, man? I mean, he is the genius of art. Steve Jobs is another real, genius entrepreneur. So I would say it was Steve Jobs and then Elon Musk. Plus, Trump's a good friend of mine. I love hanging out with him because he's funnier than hell, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people don't find him too funny. I was sitting in a conference with Donald, like this, and Chris Christie walks in, and Chris Christie's a little overweight. Mm. And Donald looks at me and goes, hey, lost a few pounds, huh? Everybody cracks up. I said, Donald, you shouldn't have said that. But he's a good guy. My wife loves him. We're at his office, and I was at Fort Lee, New Jersey. He is a man's man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I cracked up. Kim cracked up. She says, I love the guy. Because there's no two Donald Trumps. There's only one. It's him.
Right.
And he's for real at that moment versus this guy Biden and his son Hunter. Oh, my God. Or Kamala and her husband. And she says, I raised kids. She never raised any kids. They're called Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very nice to see Trump doing all these podcasts and kind of humanizing, with the Joe Rogan sitting there for 3 hours, just conversation, unscripted. I think it's very good, and I think they should follow suit.
Well, how about him driving up in a garbage truck?
Yeah,
because his followers are garbage, so he drives up in a garbage truck. I mean, the guy's having a good time. Now, the academic types aren't having a good time,
right.
Or the Democrats aren't having a good time. But I'm cracking up. I love the guy more than ever. He's a man's man. That's all I ask. Be straight. Don't lie.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time, man. It was a great interview.
Thank you.
I really
Enjoyed
appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Thanks, man.